Hello everybody, it's your Peacekeeper. Welcome back to the Gaming Lounge, and it is time for the next video on our How to Play series on the Russian cruiser line. This is Tier 6 Budyonny, and the Budyonny class of cruisers is... well, they were never actually made. They were more or less just a design titled Project 94, and I wasn't able to find any more in-depth information than what the Wargaming Wiki had, and I'll just basically kind of summarize what it says. Basically, this ship was a modification of the Kirov class. It was supposed to have better armament, better armor, and to be a little bit faster and have a little bit more tonnage. Primary design role was intended to be, assisting destroyers in reconnaissance and torpedo attacks, as well as protecting larger ships from destroyer attacks. And the design started in June of 1940 and was canceled in June of 1941 with the invasion of the Soviet Union by Germany. And the name comes from a Bolshevik revolutionary by the name of Budyonny. And I wasn't able to find much information about that, but I know Moon Puma will have plenty of information on our next live stream if we're really that curious. So with that out of the way, we don't have to worry about talking about service history or much of the design history. We'll just skip right to the in-game playstyle. Budyonny is... like the next three ships in the Russian cruiser line, very strong at the mid to long range, burn all of the things in sight game. This is really where the Russian cruiser line finally starts to pick up and turn into what we expect with regards to how Moskva plays at Tier 10. And it kind of comes with the added downside of, is at this tier, normally in cruisers, especially in light cruisers, I would be pushing really hard for Concealment Expert to get that the detection range down. And what I found is Budyonny really requires IFHE before Concealment Expert. And so by the time you get to Tier 6 and you have your 10th Captain skill, you really need to be pushing for IFHE. Also with that, this ship does have a really, really long range for a Tier 6 light cruiser, 16.6 kilometers, and that's ignoring the fact that it also gets access to the spotting aircraft for an additional 20%. Yeah, this thing is definitely one of those ships that just burns all the things from distance, if RNG cooperates. It also gets access to defensive AA fire, and in my experience, even after the carrier rework, the anti-aircraft suite on Budyonny is actually pretty good. I'm hesitant to say that it's amazing, but it does actually seem to work quite well. The other thing that kind of, allows the ship to really function well is, you can change this out for hydroacoustic search if you would like to play the close range game. But the problem with playing the close range game is that, well, you really don't have much in the way of belt armor. Your citadel is above water, and, well, your only other armament at close range are 4-kilometer torpedoes. Now, granted, you do have 5 per side, which means if a battleship decides to get cheeky and you can catch them out, you can put a full salvo of 5 torpedoes into their side quite easily. The problem is 4 kilometers is really close to be to any ship in this specific cruiser. I definitely don't recommend playing that up close and personal if you can avoid it. To me, it's just not a valid playstyle. It's more of a defensive tactic than it is anything else, and it really doesn't play out very well. Just my observation. The AP is, as far as 6-inch gun cruisers is concerned, pretty decent. So it's certainly something to play around with, especially when you get into those Tier 5 and 6 matches. You still see a lot of Emeralds, Furutakas, and Omahas at this tier, as well as their respective, clones, the Murmansk and the Marblehead. Both of those ships definitely have the same problem with the high citadel and a very large citadel. This ship will absolutely wreck their face. No questions about it. So AP is definitely still viable, but in terms of using it against battleships, I find it to be less effective long-term than the HE is, especially at longer ranges where the AP doesn't have nearly as good a pen, and the HE is pretty much always guaranteed to do some damage regardless of the angle of the ship, and that's just its strength. Let's talk about its stats. In terms of hit points, 30,800 hit points, up to 175 millimeters of armor, which is the turret faces, believe it or not. Wow, that's a lot of armor for the turret faces on these. The actual armor belt is 115 millimeters, but everywhere else is basically 13 or 19 or 10 millimeters, and this thing just soaks damage in the worst way. This is not a ship that you could use to play the mid-ranges. It's also not maneuverable enough, really, to play the mid-ranges at all. The main battery consists of 3 triple 152mm guns. They have a 16.6 kilometer range, 8-second reload, 22.8 second 180 degree turn time, and 137 meter dispersion. The HE shell does 2200 damage and has an 11% fire chance. That's with Demo Expert on the captain. And 32 millimeters of penetration with IFHE. And that's the important statistic. That means that when you get up-tiered to a Tier 8 fight, which at Tier 6 you probably will, you can penetrate the front bow of the US battleships and other battleships at that tier. The armor-piercing shell, max damage of 3,300 damage. Shell velocity is the same on both. Nothing really to complain about there. Budyonny does have a secondary battery. 3 twin 100mm guns. 3.8 second reload time, but only 4.7 kilometer firing range. Secondary specs on cruisers are just weird to begin with. This is definitely not a cruiser that I would do it with. Torpedoes, we talked a little bit about this. It does have 2 quintuple launchers. The torpedo's 4 kilometer range, 14,400 damage, 1.3 kilometer detection range. They're 65 knots, reasonably quick. So, quick 4K torps that do decent damage. Like I said, if you do happen to catch a battleship at just the right moment, you can quite easily nuke them with the torpedoes. That said, they're not something that I would rely on. Budyonny's other characteristics, relatively slow rudder shift, large turning circle radius, definitely don't make this ship the nimble, agile brawler that it would need to be in order to really effectively use a 4-kilometer set of torpedoes. In terms of anti-aircraft, like I said, the anti-aircraft suite on this ship is actually pretty reasonable. You have 6 dual 25mm guns. They are going to have a range of 1.9 kilometers is how far out they start. The 37mm, 3 quad 37mm, they have a range out to 3.5 kilometers down to 1.9. And then the 3 100mm guns, they have out to 5.8 kilometers. Look at that hit probability, 81%. 77% on the 25mm, but 81%, that's not too shabby. Guess we can't really complain too much about that. And coming on down here to maneuverability, max speed of 35 knots, which is pretty blazing when you think about it, but 820 meter turning circle radius, that's bad. 6.9 second rudder shift time, that's okay. But like a lot of other ships in World of Warships, this number for the rudder shift really only applies when the rudder is between half and full. When you're in that, straight in line to half, you really don't get much in the way of turning. And that's part of the reason why this ship is really kind of frustrating to play when it comes to up close and personal battles. Detection range by sea, 12.7 kilometers. Really not a rush to get Concealment Expert, but being able to drop that another 1.3-ish kilometers would certainly not hurt it any. Detection range by air, 8.2 kilometers. And aside from talking about consumables and upgrades, that's it for stats. Like I said, we do have the ability to mount the spotting aircraft for a 20% additional range. We also have access to defensive fire and hydroacoustic search. Obviously, I recommend defensive fire, especially being how recent it is to the carrier rework. In terms of upgrades, main armaments mod 1 in the first slot. 20% to the main battery. No, sorry, 50% increase in the main battery hit point pool, 20% reduction in the time it takes to repair, as well as a 20% reduction in the chances of them being incapacitated. The torpedo tube thing, don't really care about that. Other options at this tier, I mean, I guess Magazine Mod 1 if you're really afraid of getting detonated. Not really worth it in my opinion. Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1, this ship is not a secondary or anti-aircraft powerhouse. It doesn't have a whole lot of anti-aircraft gun mounts, and if you are playing the ship in the mid to long range, chances are you're not going to be really losing your anti-aircraft gun mounts very often. In the second slot, it says Damage Control Systems Mod 1, and I'm a little split on this. Normally on cruisers, I recommend Propulsion Mod 1 or Steering Gears Mod 1. 20% for the 20% reduction of the time it takes either your engine or steering gears to get... 20% reduction of the chance of your steering gears or engine getting taken out, as well as 20% reduction in the time it takes to repair them. But because this ship spends so much time at the longer ranges, Damage Control System Mod 1, minus 5% chance of catching fire, minus 3% risk of flooding, I guess. If I had to do this, I would change this back to Propulsion Mod 1. This ship I got in Christmas of 2015, and things haven't changed since, so that's why it says Damage Control Systems Mod 1. In the third slot, I am running Aiming Systems Mod 1 for a 7% reduction in the dispersion of the main battery. And that's really the reason why I run this upgrade module. It also increases the speed at which your torpedo tubes turn by 20%, and it also increases the firing range of your secondary battery by 5%, and decreases the dispersion of your secondary battery by 5%. You could also run AA Guns Mod 2 AA Guns Mod 1 to increase the number of explosions, flak explosions, in your medium and long range AA by 2. Not really a fan of this. Secondary battery mod 1, really not any reason to run secondary battery mod 1. This cruiser has really bad secondaries. Main battery mod 2, you could run this. Adding 5% to your main battery reload really isn't a huge number, but it would help your turrets turn quicker. But that said, again, at medium to long ranges, I really don't think that this ship is struggling with regards to its main battery turning. I think it's pretty reasonable. In the third and final slot, I'm running Steering Gears Mod 2 for the 20% reduction in rudder shift time. You could also run Propulsion Mod 2 if you were to play this behind an island at longer ranges. The higher velocity of the main battery kind of makes that harder than, say, the US light cruisers, which have relatively low muzzle velocity. So for me, I'm not a big fan of Propulsion Mod 2. I just don't spend enough time at the low speeds to really make this worthwhile. And Damage Control Systems Mod 2, well, if you're on fire or you're flooding in a cruiser, chances are you're probably going to die or the fire is going to burn out. If nothing else, your repair comes up significantly quicker than other ships, so it's not like it's a huge deal. My personal recommendation is to stick to Steering Gears Mod 2. So that's the upgrades. Let's go look at the ship in a battle video. Alright, so we're going to look at the ship in a battle now. And like I said, the ship's primary strengths are going to be from the mid to long ranges. You can see we ended up in a 6-8 match. There are carriers on both sides. Again, this battle is actually going to be post-rework, carrier rework, so we get to deal with all of that added extra drama. The map is north, the changed north, and yeah, I don't know that there's really a whole lot here to lose. Although I did notice it looked like the turrets are... the front turrets are turned. What's that all about? I don't know. We'll just blame it on the... oh no, they're not turned. That's just an optical illusion with the railing. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to this. So we're going to primarily see ourselves stick to the mid to long range. And my goal is to get, right now, to the island that would be in the E7 category, E7 grid space, which is going to be basically straight ahead of us. It's the big island there. If we can get there, that would be awesome. That's going to allow us to engage any ships that are coming up this channel that we're currently looking down. Of course, the problem with this is that we don't have the low shell velocity to really push shells over the top of that island. So we're a little limited in what we can and can't engage there. Anything that's going to come through, we're obviously going to be able to engage with a reasonable level of success. However, anything else, probably not. I think we'll get to see a little bit of the AA rework. Things to keep in mind, there is a Tier 6 carrier in this match. There is also a Tier 8. They have a Lexington and a Ranger. And we have Enterprise and Ryujo. And so, yeah. Carriers. Oh boy. Anywho, not a whole lot else to really say. This is part of the reason why I really am not a big fan of the Russian cruiser line is this first part is really, really boring. We generally speaking end up spending all of our time, staying at this max range, shooting HE. It's not a playstyle that requires a whole lot of thought. Now we've changed up our tactics a little bit here. Now I originally said that we were going to go to that island chain over there. The reality is we are instead going to try and shoot at this Bismarck at longer ranges here and see if we can't take advantage of our spotting plane time. Now, of course, the spotting plane does come with the added risk of, we get detected from further out. So that's always an issue. And it looks like we are going to head over towards the west side of the map. Go ahead and reinforce our AA sector and pop our defensive fire while we continue to engage this slowing down Bismarck. And getting nothing for anti-aircraft battery. That's not terribly unsurprising. Aircraft were the Lexington's aircraft, so there's that. So we're going to, again, using our best abilities here to try and, talk about getting close. Using our abilities here to try and work islands for cover. Obviously, we need to pay attention to our how much of our broadside we're exposing, because the ship does have a really high citadel. It is very easy to citadel. You can see we're still hovering at the 14K. Here we go. So he's shooting at us. We're hovering at the 14K range. Getting some pretty light damaging hits there. Oh, ouch. Bismarck is really quite resisting, I guess is the way to word that. I got a little out of sync with the guns too, so that doesn't help any, but we're going to keep it up. Again, we want to keep as much damage as we can. Okay, Bismarck is moving again. And we got another salvo out. We're going to go ahead and play ourselves. Oh, and of course he gets that citadel. Again, Budyonny has really thin decking, and as a result, generally speaking, does not deal with battleship caliber shells at all. You saw there, lost half our hit point in basically one salvo. Certainly lost 3/8 of our hit points in a whopping, and I do mean whopping, 2 salvos. This is why we play at longer ranges. Up to 11,201 damage. Stationary destroyer. Another 1,400 damage on him. And we're just going to keep sailing. We're kind of broadside here. Part of me wants to feel guilty about this, but I don't. Legitimately do not. Okay. Well, we got our defensive fire popped again. Maybe this time we'll get lucky with some Ranger aircraft. I am going to doubt it. Yeah. Carrier rework working as intended. Okay, so now we got ourselves a Cleveland. This is a Tier 8 cruiser, formerly a Tier 6. And a Tier 8 cruiser that would make very short work of us if we let him. Oh, hello. Random incoming shells from long distance. So we're just going to continue to contribute to this battle, and the key to Budyonny is that you really have to use your patience. Okay, so we're going to switch to AP here. You really have to be patient with know, your application of various damage, because it's not going to be huge and fast and quick. Okay, so 2100 damage, 4 normal pens. Not as strong of a hit as I'd like. And then he gets taken out. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, 18,000 damage. We're really not having a very good time with this. But alright, so we fired off our AP salvo. We got ourselves a broadside Massachusetts Black. And 3,500 damage. That's respectable. That was 8 shell hits, though. 8 of 9, by the way. It's like 7 of 9. Okay, so Massachusetts now turning in, so we're going to switch back to HE. You can see as soon as they start to angle, though, the damage really drops off. Alright, so up to 23,308 damage. Not been exactly the most interesting match to watch. Welcome to Russian cruisers. Welcome to the rest of the Russian cruisers. I hope you are all very, very patient. It's going to require it. Whew. Okay, so now we've got a Grafspee that we will go ahead and engage. And again, staying at ranges. Trying to get some fires. We have not had a single fire yet this entire match. What a weird match to... It just doesn't happen. Like, usually Budyonny has at least 2 or 3 fires by this point in the match. But, you know, hey. So at this point, we're gonna use our speed to get to this island over here. With a destroyer coming out like that, we've got plenty of opportunity and time to engage him. I was debating throwing up the spotting plane. Got Colorados over there. Yeah, let's just do it. At this point, they're really, really generous targets for us. So now we're going to turn and we're going to see if we can't engage this Z-23 or Z-23, especially since this ship does actually do really well against against destroyers. That was the word I was looking for. And he disappears real briefly there. Still able to kind of guess where he's going to be at. And then he ends up getting spotted again. We have to be careful with the Graf Spee there, though. Because the Graf Spee will kill us fairly easily. Okay, so with the Z-23 doing his backing up back into a smoke thing, the Graf Spee is coming out, so we definitely want to be very, very cautious. He's shooting, turn in! Ooh, we got really lucky there. Okay, so since he is broadside to us, we are going to shoot HE at him, but we're going to switch to AP. Let's see if we can't get ourselves a kill here with the AP. Oh, come on. Don't kill him. Gosh, dang it. Alright, well, back to shooting at the Colorados. I mean, at this point, what else do we really... Oh, well, that was rude. I wish he'd show back up now. Oh, hello. Here's another Colorado. This one is broadside to us. This is a much better situation for us. One, broadside means we're more likely to hit more of his superstructure. Two, broadside also means that if we were to switch to AP, we could get at least a little bit higher damage potential. But we are definitely going to sail away from him because, as you can see, he is shooting at us. Colorado accuracy being what it is, he misses us. Alright. Moving on. As you can see, we've got a little bit of an issue. We've got some enemy ships that are over here that are causing some heartache. A Baltimore and an Edinburgh. We should go deal with that. We're going to go over here and we're going to deal with that. Up to 41,396 damage. 1 sink so far. How can we improve this? Well... we really do need to get ourselves into a better firing position on some of these ships, but by coming over this way and trying to assist in stopping these enemy cruisers that are pushing this flank, I think we'll be able to accomplish some. Now, 6-inch AP at this range, it's a cruiser, so not expecting for earth-shattering numbers. You never know. Sometimes you get a random citadel when you shoot it at them at these longer ranges, but generally speaking, I'd recommend shooting HE. Ah, Mr. Edinburgh, huh? We're going to shoot it ahead of him, even though he's, I know for a fact that he's definitely... Oh, 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 oh. Okay. Maybe we'll get lucky this time with the Baltimore. I saw where he was at. Somebody's got to be gonna get close to this. Come on. Can't hide forever. We're gonna find him eventually. We are gonna need to call off this chase, especially with who knows where he's at right now. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna call this off. We're gonna go and see if we can't harass this Colorado and maybe their Ranger and Lexington. Ooh, Baltimore burned down our hipper. That means that we're the only ones left over here. Alright. Still no aircraft shot down. Not overly surprised by this. And just double checking the AA sector. Oh, 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 oh. Get him! You can do it! Come on, Russian bias! Yes! 921 damage, and we finish off the Baltimore. Whew. Not a huge damage game so far, so does it get better? But wait, there's more. Budyonny is, like I mentioned before, not exactly the kind of ship that goes out and gets these huge alpha numbers. It's different from Kirov in that way. This is the ship that you play for the long haul. This is the ship that you play cautiously until you can get to within a good range, you know, at the late tier after everybody's, you know, worn down and you can really exploit positioning advantages. And some ships do not do very well with these position advantages. So here we're going to work our way towards this island here to shoot at this Colorado. I'm working my way to the island because I want to stay out of his detection range while still being able to shoot at him. But as you're going to see that we're eventually going to run out of the ability to actually engage him. We did get one fire on something, surprisingly. I don't remember what it was. I'm guessing it was the Colorado. It might even have been this Colorado. I honestly don't remember. So as you can see, the island definitely betraying us right now. We're getting a couple over, but reality is that we're going to need to actually to push out here a little bit. Alright, so he's starting to expose a little bit of a broadside here. Again, trying to get a fire on him, but trying to also not get too close. Trying not to be his primary threat. Getting a couple of HE hits or fire on him is less likely to draw attention, but look at what those turrets are doing. Double fire in one salvo, and we are turning to avoid once again. Thank goodness for Colorado's accuracy. The Colorado is now on fire in two places, and it appears that that fire is... I don't want to say it's a perma-fire, but it doesn't appear that it's going out anytime soon. Perfect. These are the kind of fires that I actually like. Two fires at this point are going to do quite a lot of damage. He's going to be close to his reload, but I think we can get him killed. Ooh, he's not even looking at me. Even better. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to push this advantage here. And 41, third kill. 71,000 damage is what we're going to end this match with. So this is a little bit of exactly how you can play this ship. Again, it's predominantly mid to long range. 71,544 damage, 3 kills. We ended up fourth on the team. 1641 was the base XP. You can see pretty much all of it was done by HE, and there's the credits and XP screen. Like I said, Budyonny is really best played at the mid to long range, and I really don't enjoy the playstyle that much. It actually is quite frustrating, but things get rectified when we get to shores. Anyway, I'm your Peacekeeper. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.